Hey guys, hello everybody. Hola mi gente, mi raza. Thank you for showing up today. Y'all are making me nervous because we're at 117 people right now and our live stream is going up. So good Lord, bless me, please. So thank you everybody for coming in. I appreciate it. I know we all probably just got off work, so we're all pretty tired, but I thank you so much for coming in today. I want to just, kind of start off with thanking our DJ. He's going to be here. DJ in the Mix will be here throughout our time today. A lot of different things going on for you guys. We're so happy to be able to do this. I'm really excited that we created an awesome Heritage Month with our committee through the LatinX and Indigenous Alliance. So I want to give them a huge shout out. We've been working really hard, you guys, to bring you guys an awesome month. So I'm going to make this very quick. Yes. I'm going to make this very quick. I want to make sure that we honor everybody's time because I know we've all been on Zoom quite a bit, but I just want to say thank you again for coming in. Thank you to all the different committees that have been working with us, Puente, Pride, the foundation. Thank all of our awesome admin team that's here. So I am very, very grateful that everybody has been able to make it. So like I mentioned, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just keep it going. I'm going to try and keep everybody in line so we can try to get out of here on time, right? And make sure everybody has their time. So before we officially start this off, I want to make sure that I give it up to my colega, Elias Escamilla. He's our chair for the Latinx and Indigenous Alliance, and he's been working really hard with all of us, making sure that we give you guys a great month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it up to him to do a blessing, and then right after I'm going to give it to my other colega, John Torres, so he can go ahead and speak on a few words. So go ahead, Elias, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Very good. Cynthia, can you hear me? I'm unmuted on my side. Can you hear me? Is it good? Is it clear? Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, without further ado, and with reverence and silence, I'm going to go ahead and say the blessing, the opening blessing for our event and for the whole month. Creator, thank you for every seed that has been filled here today, for each mind and heart that feels the presence of this opening event. We thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. We have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and work and time to work. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning, every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Your righteousness descends all our efforts and understanding. Forgive us for our pride that puffs us up, and the pride that threatens to unqualify us. Strengthen our confidence in who you made us to be. See us free from comparison in order to work together efficiently. Bless this event today and all those that are present, as well as the lives of those that we encounter afterwards. Ready us to make every moment count. Bless the Latinx month in your name, Creator. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, John, it's on you.
I just wanted to quickly do a land acknowledgement since we're here. And I just wanted to say Mount San Jacinto College acknowledges the Kuya and Payawan people as the traditional land stewards of much of the Inland Empire in general and the San Jacinto Valley in particular. And as the Latinx and Indigenous Alliance, we'd like to pay our respects to these people, their ancestors, their Nagavatam, and their elders, their Amawapam, past and present. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John and Elias. Obviously, it's very important that we acknowledge and we have our blessing with this during this this month, but also this opening. So before I go ahead and give it up to our distinguished presenters and everything like that, I want to make sure that, you know, I give a minute to, like I mentioned, all of our admin, executive board that's here. The next person that's really going to also open this up is our distinguished president superintendent, Dr. Roger Schultz. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come here, and we're ready when you are.
Sorry, after this many months, I am still trying to remember when to Cynthia. Oh, it is so great to be here. I was also trying to see how many were on the Zoom. 131. Congratulations to the team. Great job. The energy is palpable even through technology. So colleagues and friends, today marks the beginning of an exciting month-long celebration focused on Latinx heritage, art, literature, culture, and history. The theme for Mount San Jacinto College's Latinx Heritage Month is America Reimagined. I am beyond grateful to the passionate group of college faculty, staff, and student leaders from our Latinx Indigenous Alliance, MSJC Puente Program, MSJC LGBTQ Task Force, the MSJC Foundation, the Student Equity and Achievement Committee, and Equity Implementation Team for curating the month-long virtual discussions and activities that start today and go through October 15th. As you know, Mount San Jacinto College is a proud Hispanic serving institution, a designation we received in 2001. Over the last 19 years, our institution has transitioned from serving 25% Hispanic students in 2001 to a population today of over 52% of the entire student body in fall 2020. This fall term represents the highest Hispanic students ever served in the institution's history. During the spring 2020 semester, our Hispanic students totaled over 50% of our graduating class. That is an amazing testament. Great job, team. All right, well, therefore, it is indeed my honor for Mount San Jacinto College to recognize and celebrate the significant and valuable contributions of our Latinx communities. Formerly called Hispanic Heritage Month nationally, the term Latinx has emerged to be inclusive of Indigenous, non-Spanish speaking cultures and to acknowledge non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender expansive people. Recognition of the contributions of Latinx people have made to our society has its roots in a proclamation signed by US President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968. MSJC is honored to carry on this tradition and has made a commitment through its MSJC Equity Pledge to recognize the diverse influences that have shaped our college campuses and the communities we serve. I encourage you to attend one or more of the events outlined in the schedule for the month to show your support of our Latinx students, as well as our Latinx colleagues and families. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you in the Zoom room tonight and at many of the celebrations this month. Back to you, Cynthia and Elias. And again, congratulations on pulling together what looks to be a very exciting slate of events.
Thank you so much, Dr. Schultz. Again, once again, thank you so much for coming in. I know we're all extremely busy and we all want to be with our families and whatnot. So once again, I definitely appreciate it. So just want to make sure that I keep it with time. So what we're going to do, since our next speaker, I'm going to give it a couple minutes before John Torres kind of comes in and does a historical perspective on our Latinx Heritage Month. So what I'll do is I will let our DJ play some tunes while we also just got in our YouTube live link and people are coming in. So I want to give them time to be able to, tune in and listen to everything. So in the mix, go ahead and play some jams while we wait a few minutes.
Hold up.
All right, Alex, we good. Can't even make them stop. Can't make them stop, guys. Thanks, bro. All right, guys. Dare I say that we're like kind of on time and like kind of early, which is crazy for Latinos, right? Because we always have this thing where we're always late. Okay, so I'm really happy about that. So far, so good. I also wanted to say, I think I started this without even introducing myself because it was kind of nerve-wracking to see 117 people on there. And I don't know how people are watching on YouTube. I know my mom is. She's back here behind me, like linked up on YouTube. But as many of you guys know, my name is Cynthia Garcia. I am the Puente, one of the Puente coordinators and counselors at the Menifee Valley campus. I'm also part of the Latinx Indigenous Alliance at MVC. Whoop, whoop. So as many of you guys know me, I was flooding your emails. So thank you for coming in. I know I sent you guys tons of emails this week, but you know, after today, we're good. You're not gonna have that many emails from me, but now you guys know who I am, right? So keeping in with our agenda, keeping on the time, because like I said, we're on time. What? I'm gonna give it up to one of my colegas. Obviously, you guys know him. He's part of our MSJC Anthropology faculty, also part of our Latinx Indigenous Alliance. And, you know, he's gonna give us a historical perspective on Latinx Heritage Month. So take it away, John.
So let's see if this works. Working,
There you go.
working. So
Looks good.
I can stand over here. Let's see if this works. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Now I just have to click on this to make this work. So when I saw that, you know, you wanted me to do historic perspective, some of it actually Dr. Schultz covered already. So I'm going to kind of quickly do a tiny little bit of linguistic talk here to talk specifically about where Latinx fits into this thing and what is the difference between Hispanic, as I move this box out of the way so I can actually see my screen. What's the difference between Hispanic versus Latin versus Mexican versus Chicano? We're throwing these terms around all over like crazy. And again, I'm sorry, I have to kind of pop into professor mode when I think of these things because I talk better if I'm just standing around and walking around. So, and you know, we kind of use them interchangeably, but they're actually very different. Sort of Hispanic, the term Hispanic literally just means from a Spanish-speaking country, whether it's Spain or a Spanish-speaking country from Latin America, Central America, South America. That's what the term means, Hispania, from Spain, Hispanic. And so it means something very, very specific, which is different than Latin America. Latin America, Latino, Latina, Latinx, somebody chiming in. Those are the citizens of any Latin American country and their descendants. Could be Latino, Latina, or Latinx. So if you're from a Latin-speaking country, and it includes, you know, some people say, well, it doesn't include Brazil. Well, of course it includes Brazil, because Portuguese is a Latin-speaking country. It doesn't include French Guyana. Well, French is a Latin-based country. So if you're from a Latin-speaking country, then you can be Latino, Latina, or Latinx. Nowadays, because, you know, Latin is a very, you know, marked language, so everything has to be male or female. That's why we've put the X on there to kind of gender neutralize that whole thing. So you get Chicanx or Latinx to be much more inclusive than that. So that's where that actually the X comes from. People say, where does that come from? Well, it's not a new thing. It's just being used more than it used to be. And just a little bit of quiz, although the answers just came up. Oh, well. There are actually three countries in Central and South America, actually, that are not Latin countries. They're not Latin-based countries. It's like, well, all of South America is Latin. No, it isn't. Belize is actually formerly British Honduras, which is English-speaking. Guyana is English-speaking. And the country that no one ever remembers, Sermon, is actually Dutch-speaking country. And no one even remembers. So yeah, there's three countries down in South and Central America that don't speak Spanish at all, don't speak any Latin-based languages at all. We still kind of throw them in sometimes, but although we technically, I guess we shouldn't. And it depends how many Caribbean countries you want to include in there too, whether you want to include the Dominican Republic or not, for Afro-Latina, Latinx brothers and sisters. So if you don't know where those two countries are, they're on the very tip of, everyone knows where Brazil is, right up here against the Yucatan, and then these two little countries in the very northern tip of South America. Yeah, if you want to speak Dutch, you can go to Sermon and speak the language there, or go to Guyana and speak English there, just fine. They're very small countries. People don't even realize there are countries down there. And then this is one that people kind of go over all the time, whether it's, you know, whether someone's Mexican or not. Well, Mexican refers specifically to nationality. It's someone from the country of Mexico, a citizen of Mexico, their descendants from Mexico. But one thing I always like to remind folks is that a good part of what is now the United States was Mexico. So you could be in California or Arizona or Utah or New Mexico or Colorado. You can be here for generations and still consider yourself Mexican. My great grandmother, she always considered herself Mexican, even though because when she was born, actually had been, or her great grandparents were still part of Mexico. So she still considered herself Mexican, even though she grew up in Colorado. And in fact, if you really want to hear Basque, there's actually some communities in Southern Colorado where you actually hear Basque speaking people from where that part was the very northern edge of Mexico at the time. So don't forget, yeah, some people might say, oh yeah, I'm Mexican, but they might have been in California for 8 generations because it was Mexico here at one time. So don't forget that. The border moved, the people stayed. So I always like to show this just to freak people out. That's what Mexico looked like in 1848. At least as of May 29th, it looked like that. It was really, really big. And then half of it got cut off and became part of the United States. I mean, California became a state really quickly after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And I also want to separate Mexican as something different from Mexican, which is a different, same spelling, but a different pronunciation. Mexican differs from Mexican in the sense that, and I got the little phonetic spelling over here. Mexican specifically refers to the dominant tribe of central Mexico. That was from what we call the Triple Alliance in English, or some people call it the Aztec Empire, or if you're really good on your Nahuatl, you can say this right here. So, and there's a small band, a small specific sub-tribe or band of Mexican that specifically came from the village of Aztlan, and those are the true Aztec people. They're a band of Mexican people that once occupied that whole area and still occupies much of that area. But some people will spell out and people say, oh, you're Mexican. And no, I'm actually Mexican. It just has the same spelling as Mexican. So you might want to use the phonetic spelling. And then people go, well, what's the SHCH for? But anyway, I'll come back to that in a second. And that gets to Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx. Basically, these are US citizens for the most part, or part of what is now the US. So of what was Mexico or what was California people. There was a whole group of people that were really consider themselves not even Mexican, they are Californios. They've been in northern Mexico for such a long time that they became sort of known as that. That was, you know, the age of Zorro, the age of the Ramona Bowl. If anyone's ever seen a new version of that, it's pretty good. But these folks, more often, again with the X to sort of gender neutralize the Chicano, Chicana, they more emphasize their indigenous roots versus emphasizing more of their Spanish colonial roots. They could be all of the same country, the same family, it doesn't matter. But that's where Chicano comes from. It's the Chican part of Michoacana. So you get Chicano instead, or Chicano or Chicanx. So they're still really emphasizing not the Mexican, but the Mexican aspect of their existence and their way they choose to live and all that kind of stuff. And just kind of as a little aside that popped into my head. At the fall of Tenochtitlan in 1621, the leadership of the Mexican people said they were going to kind of put all their sort of traditions aside for about 500 years and then everything would be revived. Well, that's coming up next year. So you'll see all over Mexico City, all over Mexico in general, the next year is going to be festivals like crazy, celebrating sort of the return of the Mexican and sort of that traditional indigenous roots are happening all over. You may have noticed that there's now Aztec dance groups everywhere. I think that's part of that revival movement that's happening as part of the promises they made to themselves even 500 years ago. So you can read texts from 500 years ago and they talk about, yeah, we're going to bury this stuff for a while because we need to, but in 2021, we're going to come back. And that's right around the corner. Hopefully pandemic will be done and we can have dancing in the streets again, that kind of stuff. Chicano and Chicanx often has sort of a stigma. So I have lots of students who say, you know, well, I understand the indigenous part, and but I really don't want to be called Chicano because, and I said, well, because of what? What's the, you know, what's the, it's like, well, because they're political and they're this and that. So there's the Chicano movement kind of gave that Chicano term sort of that flavor. And it doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, it became popular that way in the 1960s to talk about Chicano movement and Chicano power and what it did Chicanos in East LA, and then eventually in Texas, and it spread all over the place. There was even a little brown beret group here in San Jacinto. So the Chicana movement, eventually kind of following in the footsteps of the Black Power movement, really kind of decided to focus on, trying to keep jobs for people, trying to work on healthcare, and trying to work on childcare and family issues, and a lot of those same kind of things. And leaders like Cesar Chavez and many other people helped organize labor forces out in the fields. Became sort of the impetus, the starting point of what rolled into a broader Chicana movement, where Islos and that whole phenomena happened in Los Angeles. And like I said, it was happening in this community as well. And that's another lecture for another day. In fact, Maria Lopez is probably a better one to tell that story. So I'll leave that one for another day. But that kind of gets us to sort of 1968. The beginning of what that was National Hispanic Heritage Week, which was sponsored by a representative here, Edward Roybal in California, signed into law by Lyndon Johnson, like Dr. Schultz had said. That began what we called, we're now talking about Hispanic Heritage Month. It became a full month. Oh, there's Roybal. Oh, I had a picture of him somewhere. It became a full month, actually, in 1988. Another law, another Californian, Esteban Torres, put forth, let's make it a whole month. Started, centered around Mexican independence. It was actually signed into law by Reagan in 1988. And it was George Bush I that proclaimed it for the very first time as a full-blown National Hispanic Heritage Month, complete with festivities and parades and all kinds of stuff that happens around this time of year. There's Esteban. I remember Esteban. No relation, by the way, just a coincidence. And, so as we kind of begin our 31st anniversary of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we, of course, are doing our first big one here at Mount San Jacinto with a whole month of activities we've already been talking about. So that's a tiny, brief history of what was going on there. And that's all I really had to say. I'm not too sure. So hopefully that worked. I'm on a wing and a prayer here.
Thank you. Awesome.
Now I'll go back to my Millennium Falcon.
That's right. We party hard, you guys, and we dance, but we're also educados, right? We're educated. Okay. Sure, we educate everybody tonight just a little bit. I know you guys have been in Zoom meetings getting educated, but here's a little bit for you guys. So before we go to our next awesome presenter, I'll go ahead and let the DJ play a rola here, and then we'll move on to our colega, Dr. Berta. So go ahead, DJ. Oh, you gotta unmute yourself.
All right, here we go. We gotta bring it back. We gotta bring it back.
All my friends, a little rider. The low rider is a little higher. Take a little trip, take a little trip and see. Take a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip with me.
Algo que me mueve un ritmo, y es que si bailamos todos, pareja, todos, vamos a gozar, baila, baila esta cumbia, mueve, mueve la cintura, todos, las manos en alto y grite, grite por el celular. Baila esta cosa, un ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Baila esta cumbia, un ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Siento algo que me mueve, un ritmo que me hace bailar, todos tus parejas, todos vamos a gozar. Baila, baila esta cumbia, mueve, mueve la cintura, todos, las manos en alto y grite, grite por la ciudad. Baila esta cumbia, ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Baila esta cumbia, ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Baila esta cumbia, ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Baila esta cumbia, ritmo sin igual, nadie se quiere sentar, todos vamos a bailar. Cada día es igual, mi pasillo, nunca llego a mi puerta sin oír. Un chavo que me dice que me está esperando. Lo que él debía hacer es ir y darse un baño. Y yo le dije cuando de pronto sale del ascensor, las manos de mis sueños, que y toda la apartamento 112, lo que también no recuerda son sacar, esa que le hago cada noche y día, que no puedo olvidar. El chico del apartamento 112, ese que me hace una duda y más, ese que yo pienso y soy de
Yes, thank you, everybody. Y'all were getting down. I love this. It's 6:40 and you guys were dancing like it was Friday night. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. That was fun. I know I burned some calories in my seat. I know I did. So we're gonna go ahead and keep moving forward. All right, because that's what Rocky says, we keep moving forward, right? So at this time, I have a awesome colega, a faculty, a counselor, one of my mentors, and so proud to be able to work with all these people in the committee and at MSJC. So right now, we're gonna go ahead and let Dr. Berta Barraza, my God, what is wrong with me? To do a little reading from her book, The Sense of Belonging.
Thank you. What an honor. My God, this is so awesome. Can we do this like every other month? I like it. So I'm going to, it's a privilege for me to be in front of, well, on camera. Wearing my virtual mask, just in case you're wondering what is Berta doing here. It's my virtual mask. Gotta be safe, you know, COVID, serious business. It's a pleasure for me to read my book. It was published in January 2009, actually, yeah, January 2020, that's when it was print. I never thought I was gonna be writing a book. I started writing stories. One of the things about Latino families is we tell stories. And sometimes we can be boring. Like, what, can you just like chase, you know, cut to the chase and just get to the point? No. In our culture, we have to tell a story. I don't know if you ever heard me speak when I acknowledge any students or I give or I recognize a student. I always give the story. I always give the background because for Latinos, that's very important. What motivated me to write this book also was when I was in Puente at Riverside Community College. I remember reading stories written by Latinos and Chicanos that was my story, that I could identify. And because of these stories, I can, you know, evoke conversations among my colleagues, my classmates and myself. It built bonds among ourselves. It made us closer. We also share things that we maybe would never share with anybody. And so it also made us vulnerable, and it allows us to trust each other. And when you do that, that's when you build relationships, and that's when you grow as well. I can tell you that most of my friends from Riverside Community College Puente, before and after class, I can tell you that very successful. Most of them are very successful. And I had to say that the readings that we had in our classrooms take a great credit. I give that a great credit for part of my growth. And so this is my way to say thank you and to also give back to the future Latinos and Chicanos that are going to be our future leaders of this country. And so I will, what I'm gonna do for you is the introduction of my book. This book is based on my own reflections and experiences living in Mexico and then later in the United States. In it, I share the cultural, linguistic, political, and academic challenges I endure as an immigrant and how I managed to overcome marginalization to enter mainstream American culture. I immigrated to the US 3 months prior to my 16th birthday. This transition was challenging and exciting for me. My mother, my 4 siblings, and I settled in Southern California in Boyle Heights in the summer of 1979. Most people know where East Los Angeles is located, but only a few know about Boyle Heights. Therefore, when asked, I tell people I'm from East Los, a local term I still use today when I refer to East Los Angeles. This area is known for its high concentration of Latinos. However, while we were also Latinos, my family was different in so many ways. How was I different? As a Latina immigrant, I didn't speak English, and my Spanish at times was difficult for non-native Spanish speakers to understand. Plus, I learned that the Spanish I use in Mexico often was different from the Spanish I heard in the United States from Latinos. Nonetheless, I learned to understand Chicanismo, Spanglish, a linguistic practice used by native Chicanos, Mexican Americans, who attempted to speak Spanish with me, a Mexican immigrant. I learned that their version of speaking Spanish was to mix Spanish and English words in their sentences. For example, in quotation, hey, where were you? Te fui a buscar, but I didn't find you, unquote. What they really meant was, in quote, hey, ¿dónde estabas? Unquote. Te fui a buscar, pero no te encontré, unquote. Or, in quote, hey, where were you? I went looking for you, but I didn't find you, unquote. I also learned that teens didn't shake hands. When I first tried to shake their hands to greet them, they would make fun of me. Handshaking was a common practice I had used while living in Mexico, inculcated and reinforced by my parents. Other linguistic lessons I learned included that this population had its own version of Spanish words. They literally translated Spanish sentences word for word, such as saying, ven pa atrás, when they meant regresa, which is the proper way in Spanish to say, come back. Another thing I noticed was that living in the Islos, one is most likely to be among gang members. And living there, I was exposed to the language known as Calo. One phrase I quickly became familiar with was, órale vato, or hey homie, as a way to greet each other. I also noticed their unique mannerisms and tones of voice when they communicated among themselves. They will have serious facial expressions and stiffen their bodies. To my surprise, I noticed that they did shake hands, but in a little different and more sophisticated way. They will begin with the traditional handshake, which was followed by a quickly shifting hand positions while holding hands. And after about 3 variations of hand shifting, they will let go and end their greeting by bumping each other's fists. I don't know what that means, but I do know Calo is Spanish slang and originated during the Sud Pachuco era in the 1930s and 40s in the Southwest of the United States. Islos was my first exposure to American culture, an experience that humbled me, for which I will forever be grateful because it made my life experience much richer. As for my high school experience at Roosevelt High, I can truly say that overall it was a great experience. Even though I was a new and Spanish-speaking immigrant to the United States, during my freshman year, I was elected homeroom representative, joined student government in the House of Representatives, ran for president of the English as a Second Language ASL Club, and joined both the cheerleading squad and tall flags. I also took advantage of other student programs and went on field trips to 4-year colleges such as California State University, Los Angeles, CSULA, and the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. I also visited a Coca-Cola building in South Central LA to learn about possible jobs available for high school graduates. On the weekends, I took the public bus to go work downtown at Lee's shoe store to pay for my cheerleading expenses and my women's varsity jacket, which I still wear on special occasions today. I never paid much attention to bullying because we never used that term when I was in high school. Plus, I didn't know enough English to understand the inside jokes some girls will make. And besides, I was really busy with my studies and student activities. I love my high school, my teachers, my student government activities, and the culture of high school in general, which kept me occupied and focused in school. But one day, without any warning, all my dreams were shattered. After my PE class, a number of students assaulted my sister and me in the gym. Since the dean of discipline only spoke English, she asked one of the girls who assaulted us to translate for her. This girl obviously lied about what had happened because at the end of the meeting, the dean suspended both my sister and me for a week. Upon our return from the suspension, my sister was removed from PE and placed in the Army Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC, a program for student cadets to learn character, education, student achievement, wellness, leadership, and the value of diversity. I was told to stay in the PE class, but the harassment continued. One day, I couldn't bring myself to get up to get ready to go to school. I told my mom I was quitting school and going to look for a full-time job. My mother didn't oppose me, and no one from high school ever looked for me. While out of school, I quickly secured a full-time job at a fast food restaurant and worked 6 to 7 days a week. I made enough money to purchase my first car with my savings, a blue 1972 Chevy Impala. I helped my mother financially, and I stayed with my high school sweetheart, whom I was very much in love with. In 1983, when I was 19, we had a child, but soon after our daughter was born, I became a single parent. 7 years after quitting high school and approaching my 23rd birthday, I realized that I couldn't speak English and I didn't have an education. I would remain trapped in low-income jobs and be short of money for emergency regardless of how many hours I work. In the summer of 1986, I walked to East Los Angeles College to complete a college application. In those days, no one ever questioned whether you had a high school diploma or a GED or requested proof. I was fortunate because I never got either one. The same day I enrolled in the only open class I could find, a history class. After successfully failing my first class in college, I met with a counselor who directed me to take English as a second language, ESL classes, in the fall semester. From then on, I followed that path until I earned my master's degree in May of 1999. In short, I spent 13 years in college and held part-time jobs and full-time jobs in between with only one short interruption. But I managed to complete a master's degree and consequently a doctoral degree. I wrote this book to share my story and hopefully motivate and inspire others to make positive changes for themselves. I'm also sharing stories from my imperfect past to highlight lessons learned as an example that life is here to teach us something. We just need to be open to learn and make changes as needed. Finally, I am printing stories in these pages from my college experience and offering resources and tips to help others get an inside look at attending community college or taking advantage of other options like life offers. Your life does not have to be on pause. Your past does not dictate your future. Today, you have the ability to say, I'm changing how my story ends and I'm doing something about it. I hope you enjoyed this book. With gratitude, Dr. Berta.
Yay!
Thank you. Yay, yay. Thank you, Dr. Berta. It's great. Thank you so much. I have her book, and the moment I got the book, you guys, my mom and I started reading it like that day in the mail, and we read like the first 15 pages. I read it out loud to my mom. So it's a great book. There's a plug. It's on Amazon. All right. Thank you so much, Berta. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with our agenda because, like I said, I want to make sure that we are cognizant of everybody's time. So if I can ask my great, awesome, great human being, awesome soul, amiga, hermana, colega, Sonia Verduzco. Sorry, we got two Sonias today. Sonia Verduzco to say a couple words on, you know, the Latinx, the Chicana, the Mexican American, the Latino, what it means to her, and you know, just some special words that I know she can do. Sonia?
Oh no, here we go. Now you can hear me, right? Hi, everyone. Well, my name is Sonia Verduzco. I am a career education counselor, typically at the Menifee campus. And, you know, so I was asked to share a little bit about what does it mean to be Hispanic, be Latina. And I know that John Torres did this amazing job talking about the history of Hispanic heritage. No, you did great, John. And talking about the different labels that we go by. And so if you're confused, it's pretty common. Those of us that are Latino are also confused because how you identify is so personal. It'll have a lot to do with what part of the country you live in, what is the common, I guess the word would be nomenclature, and also what your history is as a family. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to share a video with you. Let's see if this goes as I think it will. So be patient with me while I figure that out real quick. Share screen. All right, so hopefully you can see that. Those of you that are familiar with BuzzFeed, can you hear that okay? Can you hear that? Does it not sound?
No, we can't hear.
You can't hear it.
You can't hear.
Okay. Am I forgetting something? There's probably an extra step.
There's a button at the bottom. Before you share it, you have to click on it so you can hear it.
At the bottom of the Zoom?
Before you share your screen.
You also click share audio.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Esa mi gente, helping out.
Stop sharing and
Reality.
share again.
Yeah.
Stop, share. Somebody's perrito wants to help too. Okay, so before share screen, where do I go?
Should be at the bottom as well. The share audio.
It's not under stop video, right?
It's at
Actually,
the bottom of
click
the
share
screen
first.
video, the share
Share.
screen page.
Okay, share computer sound.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, everybody. You're so awesome. All right, let's start it from the beginning. How's that? Better?
Yes,
Awesome.
good.
I'm Brazilian and I identify as a Cuban American.
I'm Mexican. And I'm half Mexican, even though I do not look the part.
I consider myself Chicana with an X.
I identify as Salvadorian, Latino, Hispanic, American.
In my opinion, I do not look Mexican, so I do not get a lot of people approaching me, calling me Latino or Hispanic, or asking even that, because that doesn't even enter their mind.
I'm definitely, I wouldn't say Hispanic, because in Brazil, we don't speak Spanish, but definitely Latina, because I'm from Latin America.
My whole life, I referred to myself as Hispanic. Most people in Miami do, and I think that's because a lot of us are Cuban and have Spanish descent.
Latina just because I grew up with like Salvi friends and Peruvian friends and Nicaraguenses, and it makes me like identify with my friends.
It wasn't until I moved recently to Los Angeles that a lot of folks were just saying, oh, I'm Latino, I'm Latina. Oh yeah, I'm Latina. Like, it's just weird. This is when I started getting confused.
The general consensus is that Latino is people that are born like on the Americas, right?
Yeah, it's anything below like the United States and like the Caribbean.
Because Hispanic, again, is like, I feel a little chunk of the big piece, you know, like Latino, Hispanic.
Yeah,
So
that's true. When I asked some friends, they would say, I don't know about Latino. And I was like, but we are from Latin America, but we from Brazil still associate that a lot with Spanish speaking.
It's like supposed to be like, oh, Spanish speaking people, but it just carries like a certain privilege that I feel like I don't have, even though I speak Spanish. People in Latin America were mixed with like indigenous and Spanish and African. By just saying Hispanic, we're only like recognizing Spain.
But I do feel that when I call someone from Latin America a Hispanic, that I might be misplacing them.
I'm not offended if somebody's like, oh, are you Hispanic? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't really take offense to any of those terms. Hispanic, Latino, Mexican. I mean, it is what it is, as long as you're not saying something negative along with those things. For me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic. I mean, it shouldn't be that much of an issue.
For people that aren't Latino, they should just address us in a way that maybe you can ask first, like, oh, like, what are you?
I like that.
I
Where
don't,
are you from?
yeah, because I don't expect everybody to know all these like labels. Like, trust me, like,
We don't
I don't,
know.
yeah.
All right. So like Curly Velasquez says, we don't even know. So just, hold on. Hold, please. It's still playing. There we go. All right. I'm back. So, you know, like Carly, like the speaker said, sometimes we don't even know. So it really is personal. It really is what speaks for you, what resonates for you. You'll notice one of the ladies stated, she stated something like it's Chicana with an X, right? And so it's kind of one of the things that some of us will joke around if you understand the history around the X for for Mexica or the Mexicayo. So for me, what being a Chicana, I identify as Chicana and Mexican American. For me, being a Chicana means being proud of my Mexican American and Indigenous heritage. It means remembering where I come from. It means, for me, it's about honoring those who came before me. And it also means advocating for those who come after me. So for me, being a Chicana means I prioritize social justice for all marginalized peoples. And that includes those despite citizenship, regardless of where they come from. It's all marginalized peoples. So for me, it's about being humble, but it's also about being proud. So you know, we invite you to think about what does it mean to you to be Chicano, Hispanic, Latinx. And if you're an ally, you know, many of you are already honorary Chicanos and Chicanas just by the fact that you're here with us. So welcome and thank you for being part of our familia.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. Y'all, Sonia is incredible. You guys don't understand. She is awesome. I love her. I always love hearing her speak because she always motivates me. Okay, especially the last couple of times that we had our couple conversations on campus. So as we keep moving on, I'm the next person. I'm going to tell you right now. The next person to speak is a simple counselor. I am not this author or anything like that, but I have this this poem that I did a long time ago. And so just very quickly, I was in Upward Bound when I was in high school, and every summer component, they would let us go to USD and stay there for the summer and act like we were, you know, staying there and college students. And we had this poetry night one night. And I was there with one of my carnales, one of my friends, a good friend of mine. His name was Charlie, and I think he's here listening because he knew I was going to resurrect this. And we created this poem, and we didn't think it was much, right? We didn't think much of it, but I said the poem at this poetry night, and our director, a very good friend of mine, Calvin Wondier, he's like, "Hey, Cynthia, I want you to go ahead and say this poem at the end of the year celebration." And Charlie and I were like, "What?" It was a simple, really quick poem we put together in an hour and a half to get this poetry night. So what I did is obviously when I did it, I was a 10th grader, you know, and I did have a lot to say, but I definitely brought it back, and it was interesting to see how much I knew from when I was a 10th grader. So I apologize if I'm a little shaky because it is a pretty personal poem, but I did call this Chicana's Life Part 2 because it's been quite a few years. So, como dijo Kid Frost, this is for la raza. Chicana, brown and proud. My skin says another story. Let me tell you what I'm about. I'm a Chicana with brown pride. I'm glad to be here and to be alive. Let me tell you the story of how I came to be, living in the States as a minority. The time was 8 when my jefes jumped the gate. They wanted a better life in the United States. My jefa found it the hard way with the divorce. She had 4 kids with no money in her purse. My mom came to this country with nothing and took a chance, almost getting caught one time, throwing her passport into the crack of the car window so that the migra wouldn't take it away. If they would have, she would have had a mark on her file and wouldn't have been able to become a citizen 12 years later and stay. I am a daughter of an immigrant from Mexicali, Cachanillo all day. First generation from a broken home, yet my mom fed us, educated us while she weathered through her own storm. She risked her life to raise us. Little did she know how my Mexican-American identities would bring me fear. Ni de aquí ni de allá, born here in the so-called otro lado, the other side. Que no hablo el español like my cousins and friends in Mexico, porque soy del otro lado. I am from the other side, they say. We take Spanish in school, struggling with our accent marks. Your non-Latino friends ask you why that's the answer, and you can't explain. You just say, I don't know why. All I know is that's how you say it. People upset that you have to press number 2 for Spanish because we're in the United States. But let me remind you, the soil under your feet is Aztlán. ¿Me comprendes, Méndez? But even then, we have a rich culture and a bright future. Nacimos bajo this great nation, 2 patrias, 2 cultures, 2 countries in my heart. My identity constantly challenged while also ripping me apart. What does it matter if I was born here? It doesn't make my Mexicana less out of my heart. My Latin blood gives me life. Just like our music is so diverse, it cuts through you like a knife. The rhythm of my people had me dancing day and night. Our music makes you move like no other. Just wait and see the music that will be played by my brother. Bachata, banda, reggaeton, salsa. Not the one you eat, but let me remind you, green is the best salsa, and against red, it cannot be beat. Merengue, cumbias, move your hips and let the song move your lips. To the rhythm of our beats, go ahead and get out of your seats. Richie Valens in my blood, from the barrio like me, Chicano, rock and roll was born. It's like our music brings me home. Maná and Santana playing his guitar through my soul, while Los Tigres del Norte bring it on home. Selena, Juanga, and Jose wakes me up every Saturday morning with pan dulce and café. Don't get it twisted though, my mom raised me right. I also listen to Queen, Beatles, U2, and Motown oldies with Art LeBeau on Sunday nights. Latino America, mi gente, we are gente que nunca se raja. Show them who you are with educación y determinación y el calor en la frente. Neta, no se queden callados, mi gente. Nos quieren marginar, no nos vamos a dejar. It's our time, so get ready to grind. I don't forget my roots, and I never will. Chicana to the core, and I won't sit still. Determined to change and support la raza. Working like my mom, she held down 3 jobs y nunca se quejó ni se cansa. Her determination helped me through and through. Go to college and don't get pregnant, because that's what young Latinas are supposed to do. We want to show people we can make it through. Education is key, mi gente. Don't give up, don't be fools. If we don't learn from our mistakes, our paths will never move forward. Education, inspiration, and a good heart and respeto is what you should be going toward. We strive to be better, to be one step ahead. To live this life, we must use our heads. We are indigenous, we are Mayans, we are Aztecs, we are Incas. Si se puede rings through the halls of our schools, minds, and classes. You only need ganas, the will to get things done, no matter where you're from. Remember to educate yourself and each other, because some will stop you and put barriers like no other. I will leave the mic and drop it right here. Mexican American, Chicana, my identity, I no longer fear. Thank you. So, thanks guys. Thank you so much. So with that being said, we have about 2 or 3 minutes. So I will let, thank you. I will let DJ in the mix go ahead and play a song, and then we'll get back to our next speaker.
I love that stuff.
¡Qué bárbaro! ¡Qué bárbaro! 1, 2, 3, 4. ¡Esto es! Esta es una buenísima rola. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mira nomás que chula la gente, seguimos bailando con esto que dice.
Sofía.
Scooby-Doo. Y el bom 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 bom, y el bom 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 bom, y el bom 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 bom, y el bom 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 bom. Y la cosa suena, y la cosa suena, y la cosa suena, y la cosa suena. Scooby-Doo, 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 Scooby-Doo. Y el bom 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 bom, 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 y el bom 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 bom. Esta vaina suena rap, esto va a matar. Quítese del medio que esta vaina es para bailar. Se tiró más loco con la vaina ratata, una vaina bien bacana, a ver si la mando papá. Esto es para la gente bacana con los poderes, los que andan en el perreo y para que bailen las mujeres. Esto no es para capo, esto es para capones. Y vine preparado para romper los criticones. Perder los velones, los ellos, los criticones. Soy el loco que la pone, soy el loco que compone. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Y si no, te puedes ir a dormir. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Tú quieres la juca, pásame los 1000. Si no, te puedes ir a dormir. DJ Berta, cualquier cosa que la cojan de la nevera, que está todo frío. Y ahora Record presenta el malo que todo. Y la cosa suena, y la cosa suena. Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Y el bom, 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 el bom.
Thank you. See, guys, see what happens when we start playing music. We can't stop to sit here and be like, hey, let's go to the next person. So thank you in the mix. So far, so good. We're all still here. We're almost done, guys. I know that. Sorry. All right. So this next speaker, I am very excited to have. It's funny because we kind of just met virtually, but at the same time, we kind of have so many mutual friends that we should have known each other for a long time ago. But she's a fighter, such a helpful soul. She was helping me last night. She didn't really need to. And so I have our poeta in the house, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it up to Ms. Sonia Gutierrez.
I'm gonna have to do notes on this.
Make sure it's Thanks, Cynthia, for the invitation. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So again, thank you, Cynthia, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with Mount San Jacinto with this celebration that you put together. Mexicanilla de Mexicali. So I'm in Mexicali, by the way, Cynthia. So I want to start with a poem that appears in my first book. It's called Spider Woman, La Mujer Araña. And this particular one, it's called The Passing. The Passing, I attempted to write when my mom passed away. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, so this particular poem is called The Passing, and when my mom passed away, we joined Dia de los Muertos in San Luis Rey in Oceanside, California, And I attempted to write a poem the first year and I couldn't. And so then, you know, I just was patient with myself and I ended up writing her a poem that became part of this collection. This one was read at the Consulado Mexicano in Los Angeles. I read it in Mexico, and it's called The Passing. The Passing for Estela Gutierrez. 1. Before the passing, you recite your recipes to me. I want to write ingredients and measurements, trap them with letters and numbers. You say no, taste, look, remember. As your frail hands sift through powdered sesame seeds, heavy with timeless recuerdos. The taste buds of your fingertips reside with ancient memories of the moon's umbilical cord, Mexico. Your kitchen emanates the work of molenderas of times past, grinding almonds, stirring warmth, tasting chocolate. 2, today I make mole in your honor. The sesame seeds on the comal turn a cinnamon brown. The sweet scented entrails of chiles pasilla dig deep into adobe huts and pyramids. Your gried hands have become mine. Mother, you are not gone. You live on the tip of my tongue and fingers, craving the memory of you. So that's a poem that I wanted to share with you. I also have this poem that was born in the elevator over at SDSU. They invited me to teach creative writing for them. And as I was leaving the elevator, this poem came. So it's called Doors. Are doors that open on their own, but there are others that even though they are crumbling, they are locked under invisible triple locks. Their keys are at the bottom of the ocean floor, surrounded by white sharks. Those doors do not attempt to open on whims or with blows. Instead, roll up your sleeves, build doors with paints and brushes, with the magic wand of your imagination. And one day, you will suddenly see foundations with friendly doors greet you. You will enter. Turn back and see. From afar, those ancient doors only have a few borrowed centuries left. So I'm a person that writes in Spanish and English. So I want to honor the language of my heritage and the language that many Latinx people speak, Spanish. Puertas. Hay puertas que solitas se abren, pero hay otras que aunque estén desmoronándose, están atrancadas con 3 chapas invisibles. Sus llaves están oxidándose en el fondo del océano, rodeados de tiburones blancos. Estas puertas no intentes abrirlas a caprichos o a golpes. Mejor arremángate la camisa y ponte a construir puertas con brochas, pinturas, clavos y un martillo, o con la varita mágica de tu imaginación. Y verás que de pronto aparecerán fundamentos con puertas amables a saludarte, porque te habían estado esperando. Entrarás, te darás vuelta y verás a lo lejos que las puertas antiguas solo tienen los siglos contados. And to conclude, Cynthia and I, last night we were talking about my novel. So my novel is forthcoming in Texas with Flower Song Press. The publisher is Eduardo Vidaurre. He's a former Macallan poet laureate. He's a poet, a prolific poet. And I'm very lucky, you know, so they're going to be publishing it. Thank you for calling attention to the novel, my colleagues at Mount San Jacinto. And I see you, I saw you earlier. Okay, so to end, I want to read just a very short passage from the novel. And it's a la viñeta, so like Tomás Rivera and Sandra Cisneros. In the time of memories and dreams, ay, qué bonito es volar a las 2 de la mañana, a las 2 de la mañana. Ay, qué bonito es volar, ay, mamá. La bruja. The candle's flame flickered, and the red, bright pink, royal blue, green, and yellow ribbon hanging from the window frame swayed as she moved to the corner in the living room next to La Virgen de Guadalupe. Her favorite dish, mole rojo, frijoles, and arroz, was still warm with her daughter and granddaughter's hands. She remembered who she was. She was Aurora. And her granddaughters, Paloma and Sofia, had guided her to the place of the living. It was November, in the time of ay de mi llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rostro, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us these awesome words. I'm so happy that we like reconnected. It's great. Thank you so much. You guys, we're still on. Yes.
Cynthia, I forgot to show you a picture of my Aurora, my abuelita that I never met. So that's my grandmother, Aurora. And then sister of my book. Like that.
Yes, I saw that. I saw it on Instagram too. Thank you.
Gracias.
You're the best, man. Thank you so much. Awesome, guys.
Thank you
Don't
so much.
we'll have music very soon, but right now we're gonna just keep moving on. Just keep our all on time. So this next person I have is a great friend of mine, an old friend of mine. You know, he with me at Cal State San Marcos as an upward bound tutor. We go way back. So a lot of people that I've known since I was very little. But whenever he spoke, he just had a way of like inspiring us, motivating us. We're little chavalitos, right? We're little kids. So one of our mutual friends reached out to me and said, hey, why don't you try to reach out to Ricardo as well as Sonia? So I'm going to go ahead and give it up to my good friend, Ricardo Favela.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight. This is a great event. I really want to give it up for the LatinX and Indigenous Alliance. It's awesome to see so many people on a Zoom call. I don't think I've been on a Zoom call with so many people. So it's awesome. It's a really testament to all the hard work that went into this and all the great folks here. I really love to see so many folks that I went to school with, Sonia, Leticia, you know, so many folks. It's good to see you all again. As you can see, I'm speaking from my hometown, Fallbrook, where I was born and raised, which I also acknowledge as Payunkawicham land, always has been, always will be. I'm speaking with a mix of emotions. I'm very appreciative to see and be a part of this great event, but I'm also enraged. I'm enraged because of what I heard today, because of what I heard of what's happening to our sisters in these detention concentration camps that we are seeing at this moment. I've grown up in Fallbrook. I've been angry. I've been angry for a long time, but I've learned to contain this anger. I've learned to direct this anger into organizing. And there's those moments when that anger turns into rage, and that's what I'm feeling today. But at the same time, I'm excited and I'm determined because of what we're doing here in Fallbrook. As I mentioned, I was born and raised here in San Diego's North County, specifically Fallbrook, in Valley Center. Grew up in the Groves, grew up with avocado trees as my playground, hiding from coyotes and mountain lions and all that. But you know, this area is known for two things. It's known for the avocados and it's known for the Ku Klux Klan. And you know, the Klan's been all around San Diego, Riverside. You know, many of you might know this history, but Fallbrook was the epicenter, was the hometown, was the stronghold, the headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan during the 70s and the 80s. You might have heard, you might not have heard, I don't know. You should know of Tom Metzger. He was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. Grand Dragon meaning he had the highest rank in the state. So the head dragon, the head clan member was known as a Grand Dragon, and I think he actually made up that title. But anyways, that's what he was known for. In this town, Fallbrook, the gente in this barrio, we call ourselves Chicano, Mexicano, Chicana, Chicano, Mexicana. Now we call ourselves Oaxaqueños, Oaxaqueñas, Guatemaltecos, Chapines, Centroamericanos. So coming from, you know, the community here, that's how we've been identifying ourselves, and that's the community that we are. These are the communities that exist here, right? I'm the 9th son, the youngest son of a migrant family, as I mentioned, of grove workers from Durango, Mexico, which is known for two things, alacranes and panchuilla. Like I said, I was raised in a community that was the home, the headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan in the 70s and the 80s. And I've done a lot of time trying to understand what that means and how that came to be, how a group like this came to be, and why it is we are in the situation that we're in, especially when our parents, our uncles, you know, our people worked and produced millionaires for this town. You know, where we couldn't afford even to go take a vacation, but we could afford to produce the millionaire that, provided the little that we had, right? So we spend a lot of time trying to figure this out, why it is we live the way we live, you know. So at a young age, you know, I grew up in a movement here. There was a movement, there's been a movement here in this community to confront this white supremacy that's been a stronghold in this area. Right, so this is a community that served as the base to launch a nationwide white supremacist movement. I would like to let you all know, if you haven't heard of Tom Metzger, that's a good thing. Because we fought to make sure that he was not a known person anymore. It took us fighting to make sure that he lost his place as a leader of this movement. But it's also important to know who he was and what he represents, because everything he stood for is more alive now than ever. I would recommend a book. It's called Hate on Trial. It is about Tom Metzger. It's documented. It's written by Morris Dees, the co-founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. The man, he's the lawyer who sued Metzger and found him guilty of murder by agency. It's an extraordinary trial, extraordinary case, documenting everything this movement was advocating for. And it's important to bring this up because in this town, in Fallbrook, we talk, especially on social media, when the name Metzger comes up, everybody today is against what Tom Metzger stood for in Fallbrook. Nobody wants nothing to do with him, right? But that doesn't explain why he had such a strong show of support in this community. He ran for office in the 80s. There was a moment where he left the Ku Klux Klan in the late 70s, and he went political. He started running for office, and then he ran for office 3 times. First time he ran, he received 40,000 votes or 30,000 votes. Second time he ran, he received 45,000 votes. The third time he ran, he received 70,000 votes. After that, he started another group called the White Aryan Resistance. The White Aryan Resistance. So we have to remind people, no, he wasn't someone that was just isolated here. He was someone who found fertile ground to build a white supremacist movement. And he was competing to even be the leader of it. He was trying to compete with David Duke for the leadership of the white supremacist movement in the United States. As mentioned in this book, this lawyer says that this was the case against America's most dangerous neo-Nazi. Right? This is the man that lives that used to live a few blocks away from me, where we live now. All right. So we have to remind people of this thing called white supremacy and white nationalism. We have to study it. We have to remind people what it is. And we have to remind people that we fought against this. We've been fighting against this, right? When Trump refers to making America great again, he's referring to the time when white people had total domination over Black and brown peoples, when we didn't look white people in the eye and we said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. This is the America that Metzger and the Klan before him was trying to maintain. I remember bumping into him at the store and hearing about him, having known about him, I was afraid to look at him in the eye. I was afraid to look up and see him. And that's exactly the America that he wanted, was trying to maintain. That's the America that we've seen before him. And that's the America that we know Trump is working to maintain at this very moment. So like I mentioned, I was raised in a community that experienced and confronted the most vile and vicious racism and colonialism as possible. As Tom Metzger put it, he was trying to create the most unapologetically racist movement in the US. Those are his words. He was going for this title. He was competing with David Duke. They had a beef going on, but for a while they were good buddies. And David Duke was the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. So, you know, they advocated for maintaining this culture of violence deeply ingrained in white society. We hear a lot about these shootings, these lone wolves who go out and commit these horrendous atrocities, mass shootings. Tom Metzger was a proponent of this strategy, right? It's being dismissed as isolated cases of, you know, some, you know, these poor white youth who just, you know, got picked on too much, and that might have been the case, but the lone wolf strategy was promoted by Tom Metzger after this case where he was found guilty because he wanted to continue the white supremacist movement in a way that others wouldn't be found, where the organization wouldn't suffer. So he promoted the lone wolf strategy. So what we're seeing today is a direct consequence of people like Metzger and the white supremacist movement, right? So this is the stuff that we saw when we grew up here. This is what we were confronted with. This is the stuff we saw face to face. When I was in high school, it was common to hear about beaner bashings. That was the thing to do. That was what white youth would do on the weekends. They would go and look for a worker in the Grove and attack them, right? And Metzger taught them how to do it and get away with it. He would tell them, keep a bat in your trunk, but also put a baseball glove, a softball, the ball in there. So that way you get pulled over for it or you get caught for it, you have an alibi. He would instruct the youth on how to do this, right? But I also know from studying the history of the Klan that this has been happening for decades here in San Diego and throughout Southern California. You know, there's the same gruesome violence that was being committed upon Black people in the South was happening here in San Diego. There's a well-documented article in the San Diego History Center about San Diego's Ku Klux Klan going back to the 1920s, right? And it mentions, you know, decade after decade of lynchings and attacks that have been happening to targeting Mexican people, brown people in San Diego. There's stories of migrant workers in El Cajon who disappeared, who were found hanging from trees with their stomachs split open and their bowels coming out of their bodies. There's stories of beheadings of Mexican people and brown people, beheadings with heads being put on posts and their headless bodies dumped in canyons. This happened throughout different decades, from the 40s to the 70s, when Roberto Martinez, who was the head of the American Friends Service Committee, came to Fallbrook to investigate these type of stories, right? These type of cases. I remember in high school hearing about a hill or a mountain somewhere where they would dump the bodies of Mexican people. This was an urban legend. I thought it was just a joke. I thought it was, an urban legend, but turns out this happened. This was happening. And in my time, in the 80s, 90s, Wiener bashings, these attacks were turning into sniper fire. Migrant workers were being killed by snipers and whatnot. So this has been a part of the culture in this community, in this area, and in this nation that we're continuing to see today. The ideas of securing the border, what we're hearing today, Metzger and David Duke went out in the 70s and called for this. They went down to San Diego before. My dad crossed back and forth through San Diego. He was deported many times, but he was able to come back the next day. So they called for a wall at the border, and they called for harsher conditions to drive migration through deadly terrain. And that's exactly what we have today. It should be very clear that the immigration policy that we're seeing today was the dream of the Ku Klux Klan made reality. And this was done not just because, they just felt like being violent or whatever, for whatever reasons, they had nothing else to do. They did this with a purpose, and that was to keep brown people out of these communities and to keep us out of the political process. And lo and behold, today in Fallbrook and a lot of communities around here, you look at some of the governing boards, the school boards, the water boards, the health districts, we're still in a situation where we're trying to get at least one person elected in these boards to represent us, right? That's a direct legacy of white supremacy in the Klan, right? So it's important to understand that, getting involved and getting people on these boards is part of a process to overturn this legacy. This was an eye-opening experience, having grown up in this and seeing this. And unfortunately, the same language and words that they use, the same violence they advocated for, the same politics they pushed for are alive and well in the US government today, as being directed by the Trump administration. Our community, primarily Mexican. Yeah, I heard a comment, I don't know. If there's a question, let me know. Our community, a primarily Mexican community, organized and stood up for itself. We've been organizing in this community for over 50 years. And that includes our parents. There was an organization in the 70s. My parents were, farm workers, migrant workers who were organizing in the 70s, with the goal of, advancing our community through education, right? As that movement progressed, our movement became more, the youth, us as the sons and daughters of migrant workers, we took this movement to the next level, right? We learned about the Chicano movement. We talked about being Chicanos and Chicanas in the 80s and standing up for ourselves. And we learned about Corky Gonzalez, and we learned about Malcolm X. And we learned from those struggles because, as much as I'm for nonviolence, I believe we should be able to resolve things nonviolently. But when you're in the Grove by yourself, about to be attacked, there's no TVs there to show you how nonviolent you were to respond to that. We had to defend ourselves. We talked about defending ourselves, and we did. And because of that, we actually, along with the case that bankrupted his movement, and our resistance, his organization did not last long into the 90s. And I believe in around 2010, he moved out of Fallbrook. Which I think should be a holiday in this town, right? I mean, it's a tremendous, we look back on this and, as much as we don't want to talk about it, we have to recognize what happened. The Minutemen followed. Some of you might have heard of the Minutemen. In this case, it was the San Diego Minutemen who directly followed the White Aryan Resistance. Some of the members who were part of Metzger's group joined the Minutemen. And we followed them as well. And we stood up to them as well until they fell apart. There were a group that kept trying to say they're not racist, but they were having such a hard time containing the racism that it consumed them, and they, fell victim to crimes and that they committed in some of the migrant camps. And again, this should be, I'm saying this because they were expecting us to leave. They were expecting us to leave. They were expecting us to leave, and they did everything they could to try to get us to leave, and they failed. And we're still here. And not only are we still here, but we're moving forward. You know, I say that I'm excited. You know, part of my mixed emotion is that I'm excited about what's happening. I'm very excited and proud to say that our persistence and dedication to organizing for what we call self-determination, also known as freedom, also known as independence, right, has taken a big step forward. And that for the first time in recent history, we have 4 brown leaders elected to local government positions in Fallbrook's local governing boards, right? And I say that we've already been, and I'm one of them. I want to mention, I ran for school board, I ran for the elementary school board, and it's already been decided. You know, it's not November yet. It's been decided because we've ran without opposition, right? We ran unopposed. Actually, two of local candidates, you know, they actually did have opposition, but when it came time to file their papers and to really decide to go for it, they both backed out. They both backed out, right? So, you know, I'm excited about that. It's something that hasn't been seen in a town like Fallbrook. So I'm very hopeful, very excited about what happened here, you know? And let me say that, you know, the other compañeros and compañeras who ran, who are gonna serve in the high school board, in the health district, and in the North County Fire Protection District, they're all under 30 years old. I'm the exception here, right? I'm the exception here, but the other 3 are under 30 years old. Stephanie Ortiz is 29. Oscar Caralampio is 29. And Cindy Acosta is 23 years old. That's important to note, you know, that's important to note that, right? But we won our positions before even the election came. And it happened about through organizing, no? We organized together, and we organized our community into a group called Voces de Fallbrook, Voces, Obreros, Campesinos y Estudiantes, because we know La Unión es la fuerza, and with this fuerza, we've done some amazing things in this town that was once the hometown of the KKK. So what I'm trying to say is that it can be done in this small, racist, extremist, homophobic, misogynistic, and xenophobic town. It can be done in San Jacinto, it can be done in Riverside, in San Bernardino, and in other small towns. You know, and I can say I saw this coming. I saw this coming. You know, I've been serving on a Parks Committee, on a Parks Commission for the last 10 years, right? And in this committee, I was the only one who was under 50 years old, and I was the only one who wasn't white, right? And you know, so what I'm trying to say is that, and that's pretty much the same across the board. A lot of these boards, the local governing boards, you can see most of them are old and white, right? It's a generation that is there's a huge generation gap in terms of leadership, in terms of who's in these leadership positions and who is in the makeup of our communities, right? And as we can see, the generation coming up is young and brown, right? Young and black and brown, right? So so that's what I'm trying to say. We need to talk about self-determination. We need to keep talking about self-determination, which was part of what the Chicano movement has always been about, right? And self-determination as the response to Trump's America. We have to organize. We have to fight for our people and each other. We have to love our people. We have to love our culture, our language, our his and her story, right? We have to love and defend humanity, our Black, Muslim, Arab, Asian, Native sisters and brothers. We have to love our Afro-Latino selves, no? We have to continue this movement, no? Because it's the future, right? It's the future, and it's now, it's the present.
Thank you, my friend. I hate to cut you off. He's so inspiring. He can keep going. He can keep going. My friend, I want to make sure that we honor everybody's time because we're in that home stretch for the last 15 minutes. As always, Ricardo, thank you so much for always, you know, preaching that movement. Truth be told, when I was younger and he was my Upward Bound tutor, he was the reason I was a freshman. He was the reason why I got really into Mecha and I started being that activist. And that's when I started calling myself a Chicana. So props to you, amigo. I love you. I love your family. I miss you guys. So thank you so much for being here. We are going to move on because I know we're in the last 15 minutes, you guys. So those of you that are still here, thank you so much. This last few minutes, I want to just bring out the last 5 or 6 minutes. Two of my colegas, two of my mentors. I know sometimes we have a lot to say. You guys, we're Latinos, right? We can speak for hours, and if you put music on, we can probably dance for hours, right? So I just want to give that opportunity to our two colegas that thanks to them, and thanks to Dr. Alma Ramirez, where I'm in this position of Puente counselor. But we got two pioneers here that I respect and I love. So I'm going to give the mic to Rosalba and Miranda, if one of them want to come on and just speak a little bit.
Thank you, Cynthia. I almost feel like I should do a salsa class because we need to get up and stretch. But thank you. I just want to say, for those that don't know me, yo soy Rosalba Mezcua y soy Chicana. Chicana with an X. And I think Ruben Salazar said it best when he said, a Chicano is a Mexican-American with a non-Anglo image of himself. To me, being Chicana means that I acknowledge, that I respect, and that I honor my indigenous roots. Being Chicana means that I am a proud brown-skinned mujer in a racist society that only wants to acknowledge me if I tie my roots to Europe. So our government tries to assimilate or Europeanize all people of Spanish-speaking origins. Have you wondered why all Spanish-speaking people are called Hispanic, but not all English-speaking people are called Englishmen or English women? So being Chicana to me means that I am aware of my ancestors, Mayan, Azteca, Purépecha, being a highly sophisticated civilization centuries before Columbus arrived to the Americas. So therefore, there is an empowerment in self-naming. Por eso, yo soy Chicana with an X.
Yes, yes, girl, yes. Awesome. I will bring it over to Miranda.
Thank you. I'm just gonna take 1 minute. To me, I consider myself Mexicana. I was born and raised in Mexico. I was actually going back to some of the pictures from my elementary school back in Mexico. And dates like today and tomorrow, Mexico's Independence Day, was big, huge for me because we will march just down the street. And that was one of the most important things that a child will do to recognize that we are Mexican, that we are independent. And I still have my roots. I was gonna share that to me, Latinidad means danza and music, música y danza, because who can resist not to move to all the rhythms we have? You know, salsa cubana, cumbia from South America, Colombia, vallenatos, salsa puertorriqueña, norteña, bachata from Dominican Republic. All these rhythms, you know, besides being Mexican, I consider myself Latina because I have embraced the music and the traditions from so many parts of the Latino countries, specifically the music and the dances. And I will dance all night. I will be the one that, you know, will start dancing at every party and will not stop. So, Latinidad, danza and música.
Yes, thank you so much, Miranda. Yes, yes, yes. I don't know about you guys, but I really miss dancing. I really miss going out. It's, oh my God. It's the dancing in the kitchen while cleaning is a whole other thing at this point, okay? Because that's the closest I'm gonna get to going out. We have 10 minutes, so we're right on schedule. Like I said, thank you so much for sticking around. Before we do our closing, I do wanna bring in our chair, Elias, and then that way we can play a song before we go out. So Elias, amigo, colega, always calling me at 7 o'clock in the morning, talking about puras personas trabajadoras. And I'm like, it is 7 o'clock in the morning, buddy. So yes, my friend, do you want to come in and say a couple words before we close it out?
I do. First and foremost, thank you, Cynthia, for chairing this wonderful event. I wanted to go back at the height of the Zoom. We had 170 people with, I think, 25 people on YouTube. So we were very close to 200. That was amazing because that was a challenge that we had within the committee. We didn't know who was going to show up. And then all of a sudden, the administration got involved. Rebecca Teague, Alma, everybody got involved. And we're so indebted with management. We're so indebted, Dr. Colson. I mean, so many people really put so much energy, so much effort, so much time. We are just so happy for such you just see how united we got, and it was just amazing to have that feeling. So I just, first and foremost, I just want to say that. But I'm going to pause on that. Dr. Colson, come in. Dr. Colson, I want to give you a minute real quick. I think it's deserving. Please come on in.
Elias, thank you so much. I mean, it's a team effort. MSJC is a real family, and I'm just honored to be part of it. And just how I'm able to support it anyway, it's fine. And I think it's imperative that we continue be diligent about educators. So also people like and make ourselves aware of racism, make ourselves aware of hate, and things that come together and see justice. And that's why I'm proud to be here and be part of this wonderful work. So thank you so much, Elias, and everybody on the business.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Colson. Cynthia, I know you're the chair here, but I do want to recognize Tom Ashley. I think, thank you so much. Tom Ashley, can you come in, please? I know you're there. You're there somewhere. You're buried in between all the Zoom tiles. Could you come in, please, Tom? I think he's there. Is he there, Cynthia?
I believe he was here.
Oh, he must have stepped out. Well, I'm good. Cynthia, listen, thank you for everything. Thank you for the work, everybody, the committee, and all those who are part of it. Miranda, Rosalba, what an awesome work you guys have done. And we have a whole month, so we're just starting, guys. So again, thank you. I'm out. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just going to say a few more words and then we'll let the DJ round out the rest of the time. I want to make sure that I acknowledge everybody that helped with this. Our Latinx and Indigenous Alliance Committee. We've been working around the clock, you guys. My mom keeps asking me, did you eat yet? Are you going to eat dinner? Are you going to eat breakfast? And I'm like legit drinking like yogurts at this point to stay alive, right? And in between doing my my appointments and all for this awesome month that we have. And we're so very excited. I want to thank Student Life, C, Equity, Pride Foundation, our marketing team. Shout out to Ronnie. He did an awesome job with all of our stuff, the whole marketing team, everybody, Eric, everybody that was helping me out with everything. Thank you so much. We did everything. I know it was kind of last minute, so I appreciate everybody coming in. Once again, to our presenters, our speakers, our poetas, everybody, all you guys for coming in. City of Menifee, obviously our great president and superintendent, Dr. Schultz, and the board of trustees that they were kind of coming in here. Rebecca Teague is here, Letty's here, just everybody that came in. I truly appreciate it. I know it was a long 2 hours. I think last time I checked, the Padre and San Diego game was like 3-1. I'm a Padre fan, so I will say it with pride, okay? Dodger people, don't worry, I was keeping track while I was back here listening to everybody. But once again, thank you so much. I definitely want to put that plug in. We have Dia de la Familia this Sunday, and we have a bunch of events going on the rest of the month. So, or Saturday, I'm sorry, Saturday, just kidding. At Sunday, I'll be hanging out in bed, just like chilling. My is from 12 to 4. Please share that with all of your students. You know, we want to push. What's that? Oh, we want to make sure that we push Dia de la Familia for Saturday, and you know, we want to make sure that everybody gets the information. Thank you so much for accepting all those emails that I sent you guys. I promise I won't be sending that many anymore, but you know, I had to push it through. And you know, this definitely concludes our time here. DJ in the Mix, you can go ahead and head it out. Thank you so much, everybody.
Cynthia, hold on.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to also acknowledge our Vice President of Instruction. He's with us as well.
Yes, thank you.
And also Joseph Williams, who's running for the Board of Trustees seat in Area 1. And anyone else, any community leaders? I don't think I said any community leaders. Anyone else? I think we good. I don't think we're missing anybody else, but thank you all of you for joining us in this special event. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much. DJ in the Mix, round it out.
Don't leave the opening.
Thank you.
Puede vencer la sequía y para qué llorar, para qué si duele una pena se olvida y para qué sufrir, gracias a vida y que viva voy a vivir el momento para entender el destino, escuchar el silencio, para encontrar el camino y para qué llorar, para qué si duele una pena se olvida y para qué sufrir, para qué si duele una pena se olvida la ley.
camino. ¿Para qué llorar? ¿Para qué? Si duele una pena, se olvida. ¿Y para qué sufrir? ¿Para qué? Si duele una pena, se olvida. Aquí me tienen clavado, soltando las penas en un mar. Mirándome por favor. Aquí me tiene abandonado, bebiendo tequila para hablar y dejar hundirme hacia dolor.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Con la cintura muévela, con la cadera muévela. Si lo que quieres es bailar, si lo que quieres es correr, si tú quieres bailar, toma de caracol. tell me what you working with. Bend over, girl, tell me what you working with. Bend over, girl, tell me what you working with. Bend, tell me what you working with. Todo el mundo con la lengua afuera. Con la lengua afuera. Con la lengua afuera.
On a Tuesday, y'all. On a Tuesday. On a Tuesday. We party all day on Tuesday. We're gonna be here forever. Like
Yeah, I might get the neighbors a little mad if I keep playing.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, we did it, guys. It was
listen,
awesome.
Cynthia, I really, man, hats off to what we didn't know was going to be the event. I mean, right, we all threw our hands up. We didn't know what to expect. We had no idea. What's her name calls me, Rosalva calls me. He goes, Elias, what do you think? Who do you think we'll get? I go, you know what? I think we're going to hit over 100.
Oh yeah.
And then here we are. It's amazing.
I was really nervous because I'm sitting here like I go, give me the YouTube link because I just want to make sure. I was like, we invited so many people and we shared it so many times. So I saw that number and I immediately I'm like, oh my God, I'm blanking. I don't know what to do. Where's my agenda? So yeah, we weren't sure what was gonna happen, but man, we are blessed. We had a lot of people come in and I think we almost made it to 200, which is awesome. I was not expecting that. So there you go, guys.
And just a shout out because we're still recording and we're still live on YouTube. So who knows who else is out there who's not in the Zoom. Okay? So.
No, it was great. Thank you, everybody. It was a great event.
Cynthia, I want to hear Alma, some feedback from Alma. Alma was just so quietly listening and it's so nice to have your kids involved. You know what I mean?
Do you want me to stop? Do you want me to stop the recording, or do you want me to?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can stop the recording. Who knows?
Oh, it's cool.
It's after hours.
It's after hours.
I'd say stop recording and stop the live on YouTube, and then we can share.
Let's chat. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So
I like that.
Let's stop the recording. Do you want to stop the recording? Yeah, I guess.
Can you put the panel where we can all see everybody?
Yeah. And then I think it's still live on YouTube. So how does that get?
I'm getting there. Stop live stream.